Good morning. Me and my partner will be reporting on the epilogue of Shinzo Hayase's Mindanao Ethnohistory Beyond Nations. I will be reporting on the first part while my partner will be reporting on the second part. So, this part is called In Search of New Historical Studies Beyond Document-Based Study. To start off the discussion, Shinzo Hayase shares his insights with the problems that he encountered while he was writing Mindanao Ethnohistory. One of these problems was using historical studies. Why? Well, he found out that historical studies were too anachronistic, meaning that it was limited to writing the histories of the present nation state. So, for example, writing the history of the Philippines in general, or in, say, Philippine economy, Philippine politics, well, when it does not include all of the Filipinos or the history of the whole Philippines. That is why he remarked, history writing about a particular state is a thing of the past. What Shinzo Hayase wanted to do was to write a larger history beyond the present state or present nation state. That is why, as a result, he wrote on themes and topics that cannot be fully described within the framework of present nation state. To write a larger history beyond the nation, Shinzo Hayase encountered two different studies that would guide him. At the same time, he would also criticize. So the first of these is Tsurumi Yoshiko. Tsurumi Yoshiko was a notable Japanese scholar who liked to immerse himself or live among the villages to try to understand the culture, the people, and their history. Hayase applauded him for his very literary and very imaginative works. At the same time, he was also very sensitive to the culture that he was trying to study on. But, naging criticism dito is that Yoshiko had a great mistrust of written documents that resulted to inaccuracies in most of his works. So, an example would be, to understand Southeast Asia, my method, banana in the Japanese, between Philippine plantations and the dining table. So the second study that Hayase criticized on was area studies. So to give a background, area studies was developed in 1965 by the Center for Southeast Asian Studies. So this emphasizes fieldwork and an interdisciplinary approach. So the limitation of historical studies with written materials, the area studies tried to compensate with fieldwork. So, however, what resulted with this study was not area studies or an interdisciplinary study, but rather most of these researchers in the area studies were just widening their scope of their specialized disciplines. So, Hayase goes as far to say that only the works of Maeda, Tashimoto, Narifumi were really works of area studies, of interdisciplinary approach. So, moreover, he also found that the problems with area studies, first of all, that the research results, a communal property, are not published. So, there's no community of knowledge that is shared. Second, there's absence of full preparation of conducting field work. So this resulted to two results produced by area studies: library work and any field. Library work, so these are just written documents, desk work. While any fields, this can be like the balance between field work and desk work to gain comprehensive understanding. With this, Shinzo Hayase realizes that historical studies are actually an area study. Why? Because historians must choose a time period and an area as basic space with same value to study on. So, through this, it becomes multidimensional, meaning you have to understand the area in time and in space. So, there are two kinds of historical studies. One is narrow and the other one is broad. The narrow one strictly relies on written materials, while the broad one incorporates research results of related sciences to have a comprehensive understanding, meaning that it's more interdisciplinary. Now, through historical studies, we now encounter the problem of fieldwork versus document-based studies. So documents at the same time are still important for the researcher or for the ethnohistorian. Why? Because you can't exactly just rely on fieldwork, because you wouldn't see the facts and the data that give you a clear picture or the whole picture of what you are studying on. So by examining and comparing facts, this enables historians to consider various matters. And with this, it helps us understand the unclear and to see the small, minute details. Now that historical studies are considered interdisciplinary studies, it helps us overcome existing disciplines that developed and originated in Europe. To cite an example would be the mastery of foreign languages. That, let's say, you are well versed or you are fluent in the Spanish language, so you can use this skill of yours and this knowledge of yours to gather data. So how? By reading old Spanish documents or translating these. So through this, it becomes means to gather data for research. Now we move on to historical studies. So there's two kinds: specialization and synthesis. So undeniably, the importance of written documents and fieldwork is exemplified even more.
Hello, I will be discussing the part 2 of the epilogue of Shinzo Hayashi's work. Alright, let's proceed to impartiality of historical research. Of course, we have issues on written documents in the Philippines because most of the documents are concentrated in Manila, and of course, there are certain provinces that lacks historical documents. Aside from that, we have Spanish documents, which we know that there is bias in it, and we only have few sources because it is inevitable that sources are burned or got struck by a typhoon and whatsoever. So that's one of those issues. In our Philippine history, most of our documents only revolve around political history and economic history because those are the sources we only have. So therefore, oral history is important in order for us to supplement more facts about a certain event, such as social history and others. And specifically, of course, ethnohistory is also important, especially when we use oral history in order for us to supplement more informations about a certain ethnic group. Let's proceed to world history. Of course, we know that it is incomplete because there are a lot of historical gaps that happened. And of course, there are a lot of issues in textbooks because the historical gaps are quite long, wherein the readers won't understand the developing story of each country. So that's why people will never understand the complete history from a global perspective. So that's why we need to complete, or as much as possible fill in the gaps in order for us to know the whole history of the world. Well, not actually whole, but at least almost complete in order for us to connect everything in one place. Okay, let us proceed to historical studies in the midst of globalization. As we can see, globalization is upon us, of course. Well, let's proceed to the first point. It is difficult to integrate national history with world history because, we have struggles in not completely completing our national history, but as much as possible, getting all the sources and integrating it to national history is quite difficult because, of course, especially for us, we lack in sources, just like what I said a while ago. So that's why in Japan they established national studies in order for us to remake our history. I mean, not actually remake, but reconstruct our history, and as much as possible in an Asian perspective in order to prevent any bias. Well, another reason why it is hard to integrate national history with world history is because, aside from national history being incomplete, well, we can see that world history is a globalized type of history wherein everything is connected. So therefore, we need to fix national history in order for the world history to gain connections, and we can see every connection that each country has. All right, let's look at the importance in studying history according to the insights of Shinzo Hayase. Well, according to what he said, that studying history helps us understand the common sense of a society or area in a particular time period, which means that studying history, we will learn how the society works from the ancient times up to the contemporary times. And he also said that we should filter what is today, which means contemporary times. We should remove the context on today in order for us to understand history. We have to contextualize the situation during that time period in order for us to understand the society on a particular period. And because of that, it is significant, because if we see the developments of each society around the world, we will understand how the world works today. Such as China, for example. We all know that they are a world power and at the same time a bully. They can do anything they want. Why? Because we can trace it back to ancient China, wherein they think of themselves as the Middle Kingdom, the dominant civilization in the world. So that's why we can see now that China is acting high and mighty. Alright, let's proceed to the last part of the report, the significance of the book, which was written by Shinzo Hayase. The reason why he wrote the book is for us to understand what Muslim society is. Because most of the books that we see is more on political Islam. And because of Shinzo Hayase's work, we were able to see how Muslim society works in the Philippines. Aside from that, we can see and understand how the Philippines relationship with Islam throughout the years. The evidence is in Shinzo Hayase's book. And aside from that, we can see how Muslims and non-Muslims, especially Christians, and how they interact with each other in the Philippines. And lastly, with his book, he was able to narrate the history of the maritime Islamic societies. Thank you.